Hello and welcome to another anime lore and theory video. I'm Shagok, your host, and today we are going to take a closer look at Enfiria and why he and his talent could be the greatest threat to the Great Tomb of Nezarec and to Ainz Ooal Gown himself, one way or another. But before we're going to take a closer look at any of this, let me quickly thank my patrons for supporting this channel, as well as a thanks to all users of the YouTube thanks function for making one-time donations. And with that said, let's get to the topic at hand. Imagine you have studied, not at a university, but under the watchful warm eyes of your grandmother, learning which herbs have which effects, where to find them, and in what quantities each herb, mushroom or bud must be mixed together to achieve the desired results. Some of them close wounds, others neutralize poisons, while still others strengthen body, mind and mana, protect against harm, or help to inflict it. Imagine that understanding and carrying this knowledge forward in your life. And in order to preserve the potion you brew, to protect them from mold, decay and rot, you learn how to cast the spell Preservation, a spell made exactly for that very purpose, one of the very first your grandmother has taught you. In the fortress city of Iwantel, in her apothecary, you learn knowledge that 99% of humanity will never know, the knowledge of healing, of spell casting, and ultimately of binding those spells into potions so that others may use them. And speaking of using them, items even your grandmother couldn't handle in the first place were always like an open book to you, something you could intuitively manage without effort, without thought. And so, even as a child, you could help already with things she apparently could no longer make use of, and that curiously no other could, until one day she explained to you that you possess a unique talent, the ability to use seemingly any item, even those normally meant only for a single wielder, no matter how exotic or mythical they may be, something that proves very useful in your life as an apprentice. And it is a good life. While many casters earn coins as adventurers, risking their health, their friends, and their very lives, often for wages barely above those of the average day laborer, once you subtract the cost of food, equipment, and upkeep, and not to mention the worries of your own life, the sadness after the loss of a friend, that are also drowned in potions of a different sort. You and your grandmother live in one of the better quarters of the city. Every thief and cutthroat thinks twice before deciding whether it is worth stealing from you, and so your family's wealth can be put to better use. Should, for example, your grandmother desire something rather exotic, like a rare potion from a young lady, then she could pay for it with 32 gold pieces, enough for a family of 3 to live a modest life for nearly 3 years. And for the young woman, it is money that could change her entire life. And for Lizzie Baliar, your grandmother, it is a worthy investment, should the red potion indeed turn out to be a legendary item, God's blood. But such sums stir up desire. The temptation is always there, to take gold or to steal possessions, potions, that can save lives, heal disease, and cure poisons. This might drive the desperate to extreme measures, but yet every single potion brewer possesses quite a magical aptitude. After all, the preservation spell is not easily cast, and therefore it is common knowledge that one does not pick a fight with potion makers, with the apothecaries of the city of Iwantel. And for an ordinary group of bandits or robbers, a single hand movement from the seemingly defenseless old lady could be fatal indeed. Fire and smoke could fill the entire alley where you have ambushed her in an instant, and every panicked breath you took would be your last, for your lungs would turn to ash. And even if the old woman seemingly not noticed you, your blade might be stopped at the last second, just before her body takes any damage, thanks to a protective spell, or it just crumbles into a heap of rust. The lady might make herself invisible, or, just as bluntly, make so much noise and smoke that every guard in the district would come rush to her aid. And yet, one day, when young Inferior's grandmother left him unattended, a woman stood before him. Inferior had always been shy and reserved, someone whose world was potions and ingredients, not social life, and for whom flirting was visibly difficult. There was this one country girl, kind and seemingly innocent, on whom an Inferior always had an eye. But the woman standing before him was different. Where Henry was modest, her rural dressing hiding her figure, this woman's adventure attacks flashed openly beneath her cloak, working as some sort of bikini armor, because apparently it was the only clothing that she was wearing. Many adventurers wore armor that looked bizarre to ordinary people, but possessed overwhelming magical properties. Hesitantly and somewhat intimidated by the woman's dark grin, Inferior might have asked himself what she wants. And with a grin, she pointed directly at him. Face burning red, he turned around, looked behind him. Surely, she meant the potions in the shop, not you yourself. What could such a woman possibly want from you? But the situation was much more grave than you realized. The adventurers who had accompanied you in the forest of Torp, all except one, told you in their rough voices to step back as they prepared for battle. The Swords of Darkness were the finest silver-ranked adventurer team in all of Iwantel, but against the woman's lightning-fast movements, they were powerless. Each strike of their stilets cut them down with effortless precision. All, save the caster, were neutralized, disarmed, and rendered combat incapable. Before you could see what the woman intended for her, your vision went blank. Where she had struck you, where she had taken you, you never knew. Your vision is now clouded, your eyes still hazy. You feel as though you have endured immense strain, your body and mind still not yet in harmony again. Your grandmother never left your side, not after an adventurer in black armor rescued you from the clutches of a rogue elite warrior of the slain theocracy. Your mind had been shut down, your body used as a magical conduit for a massive undead ritual. Legions of the undead marched against a man in black armor, who carved his way through their ranks, cutting down both the woman and a powerful necromancer named Khajiit. He saved not only you, but the entire city, with a little help from his beautiful companion, Nabe. The only one concerned with your alchemic prowess during all of this was the same man in black armor, the one who had saved your life, and who once saved the life of the girl you like, of Henry, alongside with the rest of her village. For you had already learned and figured out that this man was no ordinary warrior, nor even a legendary fighter, but a caster, a mage, who far outclassed both you and your grandmother, and the one who answered to the name Ainz Ooal Gown in exchange for saving your life and that of your grandmother, now came to collect his payment. You, and all the knowledge you and your grandmother carry, will be shipped off to the village of Karn and protected by him. And so you worked in the village of Karn, trying to recreate the legendary red potion that Britta once brought to your grandmother's apothecary, and to create and fuse ingredients you have never heard of with ingredients you are already very familiar with. And that, for a time, was the last time fate pursued you because of your talent to use any item in this very world. But it is questionable whether, despite the heavily fortified village and its guard provided by one of the Pleiades, the battlemates of the undead sorcerer King Ainz Ooal Gown, whom you have now served for years, will not one day strike again. Someday, somewhere, someone might come to you with the idea of using you or your talent for themselves. Such is the power of Nezarec, such are the mighty undead legions of the Sorcerer King, and so many more legendary beings and legendary items that slumber in the depths of Nezarec, guarded, nurtured, and tended personally to by the son of the Sorcerer King himself, that likely no one would dare to descend into the Grey Tomb to seize them. And yet there were adventurers who were tempted to descend into the depths of Nazareth, adventurers whose fate, at least to you, remain unsolved to this day. Whether you want it or not, and whether you can change it or not, your talent is one of the most coveted in the entire world. If someone were to succeed in stealing the staff of the Sorcerer King Ainz Ooal Gown and take care of your talent, the fate of the Great Tomb itself would rest entirely into their own hands. If it is possible to some trick, some measure, some means, to take out Lupus Regina, and then to take you prisoner again. All of the items of the Great Tomb of Nazareth could potentially be used against it. And what items they are. Some can control time and reality itself, others contain entire worlds within them. Others master space and time. And others might simply increase one's combat power, and whoever abducts you again could use any of those items. But there's yet another thing among the seemingly endless number of items in Nazareth's treasury vault that would stir the greed of any outsider. A ring that grants any wish, that would let one cast the spell Wish upon a Star without any cost. To their own mind, to their own body, to their own very souls. What you do not know is that the ring actually comes from a game from another world, that drew the players into a world of magic that otherwise seemingly not existed in the parallel world. A world of data that simulated magic, surpassing anything you could imagine about sorcery. And this legendary ring was not an item that was only open to Ainz Ooal Gown. Anyone could win it through a gacha-style mechanic. A gamble that barely skirted the definition of luck-based games, even though Ainz Ooal Gown had spent many attempts to obtain it. Others might obtain it more easily. And Ainz Ooal Gown was not the first player to reach the new world. Potentially, every player had access to such a ring. The Minotaur King with his unfathomable power, and many modern ideas that he could not build himself, like fans, refrigerators, and surgery. A hero who soared through the air on his wings. A sleeper in a sunken city. A dragon rider. A queen attended by many servants, and perhaps even a goblin king who fought dragons with an ash twig, and won. Perhaps all of them, like Ainz Ooal Gown, were players, and they might have brought with them the item Ainz used in his vain attempt to free Sheltier from the influence of a world-class item. Now, whether any one of them actually was a player, and whether any one of them actually had such a ring, is unknown. But at most someone who specialized in dealing with beings that possess these unfathomable forces, these powers that are players, beings strong enough to be worshipped as gods in some parts of the world, might have stumbled across such a ring. The question remains, how would such enemies of the Sorcerer King employ these rings? How would Platinum Dragonlord cure Elim Las Malvar, or how would even the Theocracy of Slain use such a ring? Would they try to banish Ainz Ooal Gown with it? After all, he has a world-class item, so it might not work. Or would he try to fight fire with fire? And of course they could use such a ring, not to banish Ainz Ooal Gown, but to revive those who are known to be roughly his equals, or whose power might far exceed that of the Great Tomb. Perhaps the Goblin King and his Ash Branch would be the right choice. After all, he could slay dragons with it. Perhaps the Minotaur King, whose axe blows could split the heavens, would be worth a try to take down the Sorcerer King in close combat. But could this be done? Could Enfiria be kidnapped again? What about Lupus Regina? What about the rest of the Pleiades, the Floor Guardians, the many other mighty creatures of Nazareth? What of Ainz Ooal Gown's son? It will take more than just one player to defeat Ainz. Yet it is common knowledge that 500 years ago, beings known as the 8 Kings of Greed conquered at least one continent in the New World. And did so very swiftly, after defeating the Dragon Lords, the previously dominant power in the New World, in one swift war. Their power crushed them and left them shattered, now just a shadow of their former strength. And they might be comparable in strength to Nazareth. reviving those long-dead kings would certainly be within the realm of possibility for such a powerful relic. And thus a battle greater even than that between the dragons and the kings could be fought. A clash between life and death, between the 8 kings and the undead king and his sorcerer realm. The question is whether Platinum would ever be desperate enough, if he possesses such a ring, whether he would have the means and the opportunity to use the ring to revive the 8 kings and set them upon Nezarec once they learned which guild had arrived in the new world. On the other hand, there exists in the Theocracy of Slain, the land from which Clementine fled as a traitor, hunted by several of Slane's elite units, a vast hoard, a treasure vault of unimaginable powerful items. And one of these items could be such a ring that Ainz once used, and it could be used to bring back the players who are still worshipped as gods in Slain, return them to life, to pit 6 more players against 1. Once it becomes known that the undead legions of the Sorcerer King have crossed the border into the Theocracy, as the Sorcerer King has already planned, the remaining young godkin, a descendant of the players, might very well be capable of defeating Lupus Regina Beta, or at least keeping her occupied long enough for the rest of Slane's strongest elite unit, the Black Scripture, to abduct Inferior, or at the minimum steal his talent to use it themselves. If not for the ring, then perhaps for their own world-class item, Downfall of Castle and Country, with which Sheltier Bloodfallen, the strongest of the Floor Guardians, was once controlled. Or perhaps Rufus, the first servant of the death god Sorshana, might want to use this talent to wield other items to resurrect his master and patron, the undead overlord Sorshana, the strongest among Slane's players. Whether he could broker an alliance or defeat the overlord and the sorcerer kingdom is questionable. Yet the duty and loyalty of any being created by another always belongs to its maker, not to the Theocracy, not to the gods of strangers. It could therefore be that the entire Theocracy would be sacrificed merely to bring Sorshana back, so that he might challenge Ainz Ooal Gown to a duel, or force such a confrontation with the many other legendary items in the Treasury Vault of Slain. And Furia, unknowingly, could once again become the focus of Slane's elite units, used as a pawn by any number of beings from the New World, be it Clementine, Platinum, Rufus, the State of Slain, or other dragons. And since Clementine's body has never been found to this very day, after Ainz once handed it over to the authorities of Iwantel, the party that retrieved Clementine's corpse might itself think to use Inferior again, to deploy items they could never master themselves. And Inferior's talent, even more so than Zeshi's psychometry, is probably the greatest danger to Nezarec. If it fell into the wrong hands, Slain could again resort to mind control and potentially use any item, even Ainz Ooal Gown's staff, the guild item that could destroy Nezarec in an instant, and thus in a sense checkmate the undead overlord without any battle taking place. And worst of all of this might happen as an inside job. Ainz likely has the means and the authority to seize Inferior's talent and deploy the necessary troops in order to protect all of Inferior. Every single cell of him could be kept safe. But while this strategy might work against an external enemy, someone with the authority to simply summon Inferior to her own office might be very well able to steal the talent. Not in spite of, but because of Nezarec's great power. After all, it is well speculated in the fandom that Albedo and her rescue squad, supposedly tasked with the task of reaching out to the other supreme beings, of finding and of locating them, is actually just a kill squad, meant to eliminate them, so that Albedo could have Ainz Ooal Gown all for herself. And therefore, Albedo might use Inferior's talent in order to blackmail Ainz Ooal Gown. Use all of this overwhelming force to overpower Auriel Omega, the youngest and strongest of the Pleiades battlemates, and take the staff of Ainz Ooal Gown, the guild item, from the Cherry Blossom Sanctuary where it is hidden, and then use it for her own sake. After all, with Inferior's talents, this would be possible, and therefore Albedo could in a sense become the most dangerous and most powerful being in the new world. Someone who not only actively hates the name Ainz Ooal Gown and only reluctantly accepted it, but who also wanted to have Momonga all for herself. And remember, she is madly in love with the undead overlord, so there's no telling what she might do, which measures she might resort to. In other words, Inferior's talent could itself trigger the downfall of the Great Tomb of Nezarec. And with that said, now it's your turn. Let me know what you think about Inferior's talent and the danger that he might pose. And while you type, I say thank you very much for watching, thanks to all of my Patreons for supporting this channel and for choosing today's topic. And as usual, I say my special thanks to Ada Daddy Ader, ASK, Bad Girl Yee, Bad Burrito 316, Beezer, Ben C, Brandon S, Brandon D, Chrissy, Crowley 0221, Sia, Crystal Prime, Dead Slime, Death is Mercy, Deathless Dragonlord, Demon Xenomorph 1987, Devin Downen, Ding Dong, Din Pep, Dragonlord Placido Saxophone, Duckwagon, Dunkler Krieger, Dystopia II, Enigmatic Unicorn, Feralchivan, Guy with That Head, Hector Marino, Hoss, Haster, Jacob G, Jana B, Jason, J. Morris, Chromius, Kyle R, Lee K. Long, Legendarius, Lelouch Britannia with a Mustache, Lexus Fox, Lord Nishikian Rai, Lord Touch Me, Loverazor, Merwek, Mr. Shoes, Mr. Tweaker, Michael R, Michael Y, Nope, Oh Hell No, Normal Toad, O'Kill, Overlord General Gasper, Paddy Pentum, Personage, Ruru, Primus 11, Rhinomere, Q&A Caracos P, Shergox's Daddy, Shadow Lightning Wolf, Shrine Keeper, Sir Axolotl, Super Tier Magic Batista Bomb, Supreme Cheese, Staris, Ted, Texas Deer, the Orc Warboss, Rocket Smasher, T.E. Wang, Vash Hawkeye, Vegito 27, Venture Fanatic, Wilhelm, Xenokai, and Sonagon. Thanks guys. Anyway, have a nice day, and I hope to see you all again soon on my next video.